Good morning, everyone. Can you guys please? Yeah, all right. How's everybody doing? Good? Everybody had coffee? No hungover from Dreamfest? All up? Good? OK. To start off our session, first I want to know how many developers and admins are here. Well, that's a good amount. This is going to be very useful for you guys. And among all these developers and admins are also developers, how many of you use Lightning with Apex? Pretty much everyone. OK, so this session is going to be very useful for you guys. It's going to be very amazing, and you're going to use this every day, and you're going to love us after that. OK, to start off with, let me introduce myself. My name is Sahil, and I have Alan, and we both are engineers in Lightning Data Service. So today, we're going to talk about Lightning Data Service, the evolution of Lightning Data Service, and how it fits into the Lightning components. Before starting that, let's go over the forward-looking statement. You have probably seen it almost every session. Talks about like you should not make any decisions based on the slides. You should go to the website, learn more about that. OK, so here's the agenda. First, we'll talk about the history, little bit of history, where it came from. Like, it is basically the experience, like what we have seen throughout, like how customers are using Lightning. And then we'll talk about what is Lightning Data Service and how you can use it in the components. And then we'll go over the demos and, of course, codes. This is the developer theater, no code, no session. And then in the end, if you have any questions, we'll go through that. If we run out of time, then we're here. We're ready to take as many questions as you have. We'll just go on it. All right, so let's talk about the history first. So 6 years ago, in Salesforce, we started with a Lightning framework. And at that time, it was just a framework. We were working internally to write components and applications. And then in Dreamforce 13, we launched Salesforce1, which was one of the biggest applications written on Lightning framework. And after that, it became an ecosystem. In Dreamforce 15, we had Lightning everywhere. All the desktop application, community applications, Salesforce1 application, which is now Salesforce, everything is on Lightning. And on top of that, we gave you guys the ability to write components on it. Now, when you have an ecosystem that big, and when you're providing that level of customizations, you start to see some patterns, some problems. We started early on that. We started seeing like all the customizations we as internal developers or the external developers doing. We're seeing like a lot of calls are going out to get the data. And many times, it was redundant data. There were so many duplicate calls for the same data which is already on the page. And we're like, this is not good. As a browser, you have a very limited number of calls, and you want to have all the components showing the latest data, and we want to have consistency throughout the app. And if you change one component, the other component should show the latest data. And without Lightning, if you do it, you have to do a ton of work. You have to first write your Apex controller, connect with your Lightning components, and you have to somehow find out like how this component updated my data and how I can refresh my own component. A lot of work. So we came up with this idea that how about we centralize the data throughout the application. So we created Lightning Data Service. What it does is it provides you an ability to read, create, update, and delete data from your own component. And on the side, it makes sure the whole UI is updated as well. And this is not only your custom components, our components too. So if any update happens on your component, we make sure our component is updated. So all the base component, all the experience components you get out of the box are already on Lightning. So this is how the architecture looks like now. The base components are the components you have, like buttons, input, output fields. And on top of that, we ship experience components. And these experience components are like detail panel, highlights, related list, and the components you write. All these show up on the record homepage, the custom components, and you can put them around the page based on the Lightning App Builder. So if you look at that, underneath the experience component, we have an application layer. And the first application layer hits is the Lightning Data Service. So that means like all the data which is flowing through the Salesforce application is going through the Lightning Data Service now. So without any delay, I want to show you how we use the Lightning Data Service and how it can make your life easy. So to do the demo and the code digging, we have Mr. Alan Hoffman.
Hello, everyone. My name's Alan Hoffman. I'm an engineer on Lightning Data Service. So before I show you the demo, I want to ask, is everybody having a great Dreamforce? It's a little bit hard for me to hear in here. It's very loud, so I'm going to ask one more time. Is everybody having a great Dreamforce? All right, that's a little bit better. What I'm about to show you is going to make your Dreamforce 10 times better. OK. Here we have a custom application. It's called Dreamhouse. It's for real estate agents to help them manage their properties, help them sell their properties. So right now, we're on the properties record home. So this contains all the information for a specific property. In this case, it's 448 Hanover Street. And this is our built-in highlights panel component. We have a path component to show where the property is in the sales pipeline. Here we have the standard record details component, which you're by now used to seeing. It contains all the fields that we like to show to our real estate agents about the property. And then over on this side, we have some custom components that we've built on Lightning. So here we have how many days it's been on the market with a visual representation. Underneath that, we have the broker card for the property. So this is the assigned broker that's responsible for this property. And it has record details for the broker, custom object there. And then underneath that, we have these two other cards called similar properties. And these are actually two instances of the same Lightning component, but just with different attributes. So the first one will show similar properties by price to the price of our property on our main listing here. And then underneath that is the similar properties by bedrooms. And this shows properties that have the same number of bedrooms. OK, so now that we have general orientation of the page, I'm going to show you exactly how Lightning Data Service is going to improve the flow for data update in this case. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to change the name of this property. So let's just call it Fantastic 448 Hanover Street. And before I click Save, I want to direct your attention over here to the card title of the broker card. So as I click Save, it's going to update the record for this property. And hopefully, as you've noticed, the card title of the broker card has now updated with the new title of the property. This is actually really convenient. We've just made a change to the property record, updated its title, but a completely different component also now knows about that change and can stay consistent with the data of the record data on this detail panel. And this is done through the Lightning Data Service. So the Lightning Data Service updated the record, and then it also notified our custom component that that record was updated and allowed us to respond to that change. Another example is if I change the price of the property, and we'll just say, hey, the property of this price had a drastic drop, which is not good for the owner, but great for the buyer. And I'll save that. And as you've noticed here, we've now updated our list of similar properties. And this is also because of Force Lightning Data Service. It was able to notify our custom component that the record data on the property changed, and we were able to respond to that change. OK, so now let's dive into the code powering this scenario. So I've opened the developer console here, and I've gone to our broker card component. This is the component code driving that first card we saw on the right for the broker. And that card contains data for two different records. It contains the data for the property record for that record homepage, and it also contains the broker record data for the assigned broker to that property. So here you can see we have our basic Lightning component tag, list of attributes for the component markup for what it should display. And the important part here is that we have these two new components. two instances of force record data. The force record data component is the thing that you will use to hook into the Lightning data service. So if you have a custom Lightning component that needs to use record data, immediately think, hey, force record data, because my component needs some record data. And it's very simple. So this is a one-line broken out into lines for each attribute. So I'm going to take us through each attribute and explain exactly what it does. So the first one here is the Aura ID. This is a name that you can choose to assign to your component so that you can reference this component in the JavaScript controller. So for this, we've just chosen property record. And this is the next attribute is the most important, which is record ID. So this is the ID of the record that you want force record data to provide you the data for. And you don't have to worry about how it gets this data, because behind the scenes, we can either grab it from the server if we don't have it yet, or in this case, the page has already retrieved the property record data when we went to the record home. So in our custom component, Lightning Data Service is just going to serve us that same data because it's already retrieved it from the server. Before, you would have to write your own Apex controller code and make an extra call to the server to go get the exact same data that we just loaded on the page. So now we can cut through all that and just reuse that same data. So this call will be very quick. It will return basically immediately instead of having to wait for the server to come back with it. OK, so the next attribute is target fields. This tells force record data where to store the record data that it gives to us. So in this case, we've bound it to our property attribute on our custom component. So when force record data retrieves it, it's going to store it into this property for us. And then we can use it to display in our component. There are a couple other attributes. One is layout type, which specifies the list of fields that we want to come back with our record. So in this case, you can specify full for the full layout, or you can also specify compact if you want a compact layout. And then this is called the record updated attribute. It's what we use to bind a reactive method to when a record has been updated. So in this case, when I updated the property name on the detail panel, Lightning Data Service called our listener update broker to notify us that that record has changed. And this is the method that we can do to respond to that change. So let's go over to our broker card controller and take a look at this method. So the first thing we do is we retrieve a reference to our force record data component, which is broker record. We set the foreign key ID of the property to our record ID, which in this case we want it to be the broker because this is the broker card. And then we retrieve the property name and we assign it to our own attribute property name. And this is the part that actually changes the card name, the card title. And then we say, hey, force record data, can you please go out and get a fresh copy of the broker record? Because it may have changed on the server, so we want to make sure we get the freshest copy. And that's all there is to it. So there's no Apex controller for you to write. You don't have to worry about field level service, field level security, rather. It's all taken care of for you. So you don't have to write so much boilerplate code. It's very simple. You can get things done more quickly. And with that, I'll hand it back to Sahil.
The slide's on. All right. So you guys just saw like how with just one line of code, you can keep your component updated with the latest record. And not only that, it keeps the whole app updated. Other good thing about this is, for very simple components like these, you don't have to learn 3 technologies. Like you don't have to learn Apex. You don't have to learn SOCL. And you don't have to write like tons of code on the client side and the server side so that like the UI stays updated. It's very simple, like if you use this. Another part, it's high performant because now you're not making tons of calls to get redundant data. It's taken care of by itself. We have like a layer which sees like, do I have a data what you're looking for? And it's already updated. I'm going to give it to you right away. If I don't have it, just wait for it. I'm going to go get it and give it to you. And not only to you, if there are any other components showing stale information, it's going to give the updates to that as well. Isn't that amazing? Like you don't have to write like any custom code to keep your UI updated. All the binding is happening by the zone. We have done all the heavy lifting. You just have to connect the dots now. All right. So this is what we talked about. No Apex you needed, no SOCL needed. We don't have to worry about field level security. Everything is built in. Another cool thing about this is that if you have, let's say, like which Alan has showed you, when you use a force record data, you can specify a layout type. The extra thing it has, you can even specify fields. Like for example, like you don't want to get the full layout data. You are only interested in a certain field. You can do that as well. So it's very simple that way. OK. With that, we have a couple of minutes. We can take questions. Anybody? Sure.
Do we have a microphone? Possibly.
Who's carrying a microphone?
Yeah, just go ahead and come
over,
forward.
man.
We can repeat the question so everyone can hear.
OK. So the question is, does this take care of the related list records or the child records? Not yet. Right now, we're dealing with one instance of record. Like you can specify a record ID, and it will just give you that set of record. We're working on it. Soon it will be available. It's in our backlog. Let me come down. Yes.
Standard set controller for an Apex method.
Yes, for now, like if you have to use a related list data or like any other information, like for that, you still have to use the Apex controller. So we're not there yet, but we're almost. Any other questions? I can come to you. OK. So
Once you develop this component, I guess an admin can go in and change the page layouts and add and subtract fields to that component. Is that correct? Or does it have to be programmatically done?
OK, the question is, if admin modifies the layout, what happens? Does it take care of that consistency? OK, so there are two options you have. You can say layout type full or compact, and it will respect what admin has set it up for you. So, layout type. So on force record data, we have an attribute called layout type. You can say layout type full, compact, and then whatever admin has defined field for that profile, it will get those fields only. But let's say if you want to get extra fields, there's another attribute called fields. And we can specify what fields we want. And it will respect the FLS, and it will give you the database if you have accessibility to that field. The field attributes, yeah, the field name, API names. If you want to have it, yes.
Yeah, if you want to display additional get the data for additional fields that aren't on the full or compact layout, you would have to actually change the code in the tag itself. Yeah. Yes.
So for our application, we use Apex class as a model. So we might make a query, manipulate the data into that model, and return that. That way we don't have to manipulate it in JavaScript. Do you guys have some kind of best practice to handle that sort of thing?
Go ahead. Repeat the question, sorry.
So right now in Apex, we have Apex classes that act as a model. Where we'll make a query and then construct something that doesn't necessarily represent a Salesforce object.
OK.
That way it's like a model view that we can iterate through or something on the client. Do you guys have but the goal is to not manipulate it in JavaScript.
OK.
Do you guys have some kind of best practice for that?
Well, so the question is, there is an example like in which a use case in which the Apex is manipulating the data before returning it to the client side? OK. So force record data does not provide you that. Right now, it will fetch you the data. It can give you that data in the property. You have it on your component. And on top of that, you can do the customization. So you can have a hybrid approach here. Like if you want to get some extra data using Apex, which is not available through force record data, and you can get the record data through force record, and then you can have your custom code on top of it, and it will take care of the UI. More questions? Again, all right.
Permission sets and users and permission set assignments and stuff like that.
Yes, everything. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, it respects it all.
All of it. More questions? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.